All right, welcome to another edition of Taxing Times. I am Todd Miramon, Chief Operating Officer here at Champion Tax Relief. With me, as always, is R.C. Thornton II, our president. How you doing, R.C.?
Good, Todd. Great to be here again.
All right, awesome. Great to have you again. Just want to kind of go over some things that we're running into or are hearing a lot in clients asking us certain questions. And I think a good topic here would be what sets us apart from other companies? What are they finding with other companies when they go there and try to hire them for their back tax problems? And what makes us so different? And I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what is separating us from clients going to these, other tax firms and not getting the results that they want?
For sure. So that's a great question. And in answering that question, I want to make clear to the viewers that in no way do I intend to disparage or knock any of the other companies in this industry. There's some very wonderful companies that are in this industry for sure. But I think the answer to the question comes in understanding what our firm targets in the specifics of the clientele we serve. So we serve business owners, entrepreneurs, self-employed people. Typically on the lower end, they have annual revenues of $100,000 a year. More often, they're in that mid to six figure and sometimes even seven or multiple seven figures of revenue. So you have to understand that if you are a business owner or the kind of client we serve with a tax problem, the reason you have this problem isn't just a binary reason such as I'm broke or I have no money. Because if you're a business owner and you're making a couple few $100,000 a year in your business, you're not broke. You actually have made some decent money, at least on paper, but you still haven't filed and or paid your taxes. And so the question becomes, why is that? And I've been doing this for a decade. Our firm has specialized in small business owners, I would say, for at least the last 8 or 9 years. And what I've noticed is that small business owners have a more complicated problem. The problem really isn't just I'm broke. The problem is I made some money, but I mismanaged everything. Or I had cash flow, but I didn't have any cash left over by the end of the day. Or another problem is I don't even know how the hell to keep on top of my financial aspect of my business at all. And so what happens is, because on paper you're making some decent money as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, your problem gets very large very quickly. You have to understand the average person with back taxes owes a relatively small amount of money, maybe $20,000, $30,000. It's a pretty easy fix. But as a small business owner, you might owe a couple $100,000. The IRS enforces on those types of cases at the absolute highest level. So going back to your original question, Todd, what makes us different? How can we help maybe in ways that other companies can't? It's a couple of reasons. Number one is because your problem by its nature is a larger back tax problem by many orders of magnitude. It takes a highly specialized protocol to successfully resolve this matter. Most back tax companies that I'm aware of, and you tell me if you've seen differently, Todd, but what I have mostly seen is the companies are out there catering to the mass market. And that's fine because people that owe 20, 30, 40 grand as a W-2 worker, they need help. I mean, and it's good that there are solutions for people like that. But if you're a self-employed person who owes $400,000 in back taxes and you haven't filed in 6 years, you need someone who really gets not only fixing back tax problems, but fixing very large back tax problems. And you need someone who understands business and entrepreneurship, because there's a lot of different moving parts, right? And so for the firm like ours, we can really address these very large or high-stakes negotiations through our specialized experience. I mean, I personally represented clients who've owed multi-seven figures in back taxes, right? And there's not a lot of other tax resolution companies that do those kind of cases. Maybe they get stuff like that on occasion. Our bread and butter is people that owe multi-six figures. So we're very, very, very good at what we do. But the other thing that we offer as part of our service is coaching on how to change things in your business and in your life to stop accumulating this problem, right? So how do you track your finances? How do you delegate and outsource the financial management of your business so you're not just giving yourself more work? How do you source and vet tax and accounting professionals to help you right the ship from now on? How do you know how to utilize members of your own team in your business to help you keep on top of the financial side of it. What at a high level can you change from a tax structure in your business to mitigate ongoing taxes? So this isn't, you're just not going to owe as much in the future because you did things a little bit smarter this time around. We try to give our clients that whole picture, and there's just not a lot of other tax resolution companies. And in fact, to my knowledge, there are no other tax resolution companies in the entire marketplace that specialize in this industry. And so that's why when we get the right kind of client, we can really do a bang up job. And again, none of this is to knock other companies. There are a lot of great companies, but if you're watching this video and you're kind of nodding along thinking, yeah, I have a big back tax problem like you just described, my business is a mess, I don't know what's going on financially, I need some help. You're the kind of person we could probably really help out.
Absolutely. I think that's a key moment or a key point right there. A lot of companies I've seen, and again, not to bash on them, there are some really good companies out there as well, but they don't offer the tax coaching, the education, because you can fix this back tax problem all you want to, but if you're going to repeat the behavior and not learn, it's going to keep trickling every single year. You're going to be the same hole that you just got yourself out of. Is that a fair statement to say?
For sure. I mean, Todd, you tell me, how many clients do we have that it's really just their first year they had a tax problem? You know, like 2025 was the first year they messed up and they're knocking on our door to fix it. I'd say that's maybe 1 out of 1,000, right? It's
absolutely.
It's usually people that have let this go for a super long time, and that's why they have such a big issue.
Absolutely. I think also too, and I'm not gonna be, I don't want to sound like I'm biased or anything of that nature, but I think we have a very strong team here at our company, and we have very good customer service skills. And I think we actually, what sets us apart as well is we genuinely care about our clients' cases and our clients. We really want to take care of them. That's why we got into this business, was to help people. And we have a team that believes in those same ethical ways that we think. So, and we pride ourselves in getting back to our clients right away, making sure they're, like I said, well taken care of, and education, coaching, customer service. We have all that here, which I think sets us apart from a lot of other companies that I've seen.
I would agree with that, because I think that a big part of the traditional tax resolution model, so what I mean by that is you see these very large companies advertising on TV and radio all day long. Those are very volume-based companies. So the way that they make money is they take in these people with smaller tax problems, charge them still a high fee, but let's say like a relatively lower fee, and they just kind of churn and burn people through. And right. That can work if you have a simple problem. Maybe you only owe $28,000 to the IRS as a W-2 worker. Hey, I'll pay some company $3,000 to get in there and kind of button it up for me and move on with my life. That does have value. But the reality is that for a larger case like our clients, and maybe if you're watching this, your case, is it takes a lot more hand-holding and a lot more involvement. So what our model is rather than going after the mass market, we really go after a fewer number of clients, and we really focus on providing, I would say, good customer service, obviously, but we really focus on just nurturing and working with those customers one-on-one as a company to really get them great results, rather than just like, hey, you're one of 100 new customers we got this week. We're just going to throw you through the system. If something's even a little bit unique, we can't help you or anything like that. It's really more like, hey, you're in the right place, and we're going to limit the number of clients we have overall to really devote the necessary resources. And like you said, I mean, we work very hard to train our team to be able to service this type of clientele effectively as well.
Absolutely. What else too, RC, would you think that at a higher level of people have these back tax problems, they have businesses, they're just trying to get their business successful, but they have this hurdle, right? They have this hurdle that they can't get over. What helps us, or what do you think is our biggest key besides education that helps them get over this hurdle?
So that's a great question. I think that the biggest part of the hurdle comes down to being very good at negotiating larger balances. You just have to understand there's two forces working against you if you're a business owner with a big back tax problem. Number one is the more you owe, the more unfiled tax returns you have. Obviously, the IRS is going to prioritize that a lot more than someone who owes very little or has filed all their taxes. So you're just going up against a situation where the government looks at you and they say, why is this guy, making money, but he hasn't paid his taxes? And it gets a lot tougher to really try to resolve. And so what you need to do is work with someone who has a very good eye for these high stakes negotiations. It's just not the same thing as if you owed some small amount of money. And I think like the real thing to answer your question that gets this over the hurdle and really kind of unsticks these people is to know how to negotiate in those terms. So a lot of our clients come to us with more complicated situations. I'll give you an example. We have a lot of clients who do make good money on paper and maybe at a macro level. So if you zoom out over like a year or 2 years, they make a lot of money, but their income is very erratic. We help them negotiate around that. We have clients where we can strategically and legitimately, not illegally or for the duplicitous mind, but legitimately maneuver their financials to show a lower income or a lower ability to pay. And you can do that by structuring business transactions. You can do that through various like asset types, asset acquisition, asset disposition in your business. And you can strategize those things to get a really good outcome. And those are the kind of things that we do all the time, helping the type of clientele we have to resolve their back tax problems.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I, again, to recap, education, give them the education that they need to not have these problems again. A company that really trains their employees to have the knowledge and the ability to help our clients and really care for our clients, and just helping them get over these hurdles, and strictly working with the smaller clientele so we can devote our time and our attention to these cases instead of having a mass caseload where just things are falling through the cracks. Maybe the clients are falling through the cracks. I've had that happen several times where clients just say, this company was not taking care of me. And again, I'm not trying to rag on any companies or any of that nature, but I've seen it happen constantly in my career, honestly, where they come and say, this company didn't do anything for me. They didn't call me back. They didn't file my tax returns. They didn't. Meanwhile, I'm getting these threatening letters from the IRS, and things are still escalating. We don't do that. We got to, we make sure that everyone is just taken care of to the full capacity that we can provide.
Yeah, and I would say too, interestingly, I've spent quite a bit of time looking at the complaints, like the Better Business Bureau or Google reviews or whatever, of some of the larger companies. And I've noticed there's really two types of complaints that they have. Number one is what you just said, which is, I can't get a hold of these guys. They took my money and they're not doing anything. That is a consequence of their business model of having a very high volume, because by definition, you can't really put a lot of time into any given case if you're charging low and if you have a bajillion customers. So that's the number one complaint, is like, these guys don't even return my calls, right? The other complaint I would see that I frequently see is overpromised results that aren't actually delivered. There's no doubt anybody who has seen these ads before have seen ads that really just try to say, hey, you hire us, there's some tax forgiveness program, like there's some dude at the IRS waiting by the phone for your call to write off all of your back taxes, even though everybody else in the United States of America had to pay their taxes in full, on time. It's against the law not to file or pay, but for you, it's going to all get written off. And it's all bullshit, obviously. But, there's a lot of companies that still advertise in this pennies on the dollar mentality. So that's the second complaint that I see, is people are like, hey, I was promised some specific outcome where I was going to be paying X amount or getting Y percentage written off, and it just never happened. So that's another thing I would say about us too, is we really tell our clients, hey, this is not a magic potion. This isn't some shortcut out of your problem. It's about taking a cold, hard look at the truth and figuring out, given the hand that you're dealt and given how many chips you have in the stack, how do we play this to get you the best possible outcome so you can move on with your life?
Absolutely. And to add to that complaint, another complaint I used to get too was this company kept asking me for more money, more money. Every like 2 or 3 months. They would say they want more money from me. They say, they went through my, they can't call it a retainer, right? They're not a law office, but they would call it some like service fee or something of that nature. Right. And they say, they went through my service fee, and then all of a sudden they're asking me for another $5,000 or $3,000, whatever it is. It's like, not a good way to do business. I mean, you're not being upfront with your client and saying, okay, it's going to be this amount, but then you go back and say, no, it's going to be this. We need more money. So that's been another complaint I've experienced too with clients over the years, and we just don't simply operate that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, obviously in business or in doing something, there can be situations where things are more than they seemed on the surface. That happens from time to time, and everybody professionally understands that, right? If someone says, I have all my taxes caught up, and then actually they have 8 years of unfiled taxes, obviously we're going to have a conversation about that. But what you're talking about is a really good point, because I think a lot of tax resolution companies that I've seen broadly, they bake it into their business model to have a so-called low fee up front and then come up with ways to charge more on the back end, to rewrite the fee. Right. And I think that's problematic, because we really want to, when we work with customers, give it straight to people what the overall cost of the overall situation is. So it's not really catching them by surprise. And, we just don't want to come back to the well. And like we say in our ads, and as we tell people, our goal is when you hire us, we're just going to do whatever it takes to get your problem solved, right? We're not here to nickel and dime you because I spent 6 minutes photocopying something for you, so that's $100. It's more just like, right. You're paying us for the result, the end goal. And the way that our company philosophy works is, as long as you as the client are doing what we ask you to do, you're treating this in a professional manner, you're treating it like a team effort. If you're doing your part, and we will do everything that's required, even if it requires more than we initially thought, to get your problem resolved for good.
And that's a good point too. Participation. That's the main thing about, if you want to get these, taxes resolved, or correct me if I'm wrong, but if a client's really serious about getting this behind them, it's their participation in the process. Like you said earlier, there's no magic wand that can make this all go away. Some of these companies will promise you that you don't have to do any work, that you don't have to pay your taxes, file your taxes, or there's some work around it that's a secret way of doing it. But it's participation in the process, and like you said, we'll do everything to get that your case to the finish line and get some good results. I would totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I want to mention too, RC, I used to actually work for a firm that was kind of like we were talking about. They would ask you for more money. They weren't getting the results, or the clients weren't getting the results. And I remember being in my office overseeing the operations there, and a sales guy be walking past my office trying to close a deal, and I just hear him promising the world, it's like the pennies on the dollar, or the Fresh Start program, which is an offer in compromise, to a client without looking at their business structure, looking at their financial sheet, their income, expenses, their equity, their assets, promising the world. And I think what people need to realize is, if you're hearing that kind of conversation, if you call one of these tax resolution companies that are doing that, red flags, because they haven't looked at your business. They haven't looked at your spreadsheets, your financial forms, they haven't looked into, they don't have a crystal ball looking into what your business is really like, right? But they're promising the world to you. Big red flag, because without really understanding the structure of your business and how you're making your money and your income, your expenses, your equity, assets, all that stuff, they can't promise you that stuff. But I mean, you might want to elaborate more on that, RC, being a tax professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the number one thing is really to say, listen, I have a very low taste for people who tell distruths or exaggerate. If you ever do get on a call with my team, if you wanted to consider our help for resolving your tax issue, you will not hear any bullshit at all. We will give it to you straight. We'll tell you what we can do. We'll be upfront with you about what we can't do. And we'll diagnose your situation, come up with a plan, and if you want our help, we'd love to help you out. If you don't want our help, it's not the right time or whatever, that's totally fine too. And there needs to be more people in this industry, the tax help industry, but I think just in general, they need to operate their businesses that way. But unfortunately, this is a business of people who have financial troubles. I mean, people that have back taxes are not exactly rolling in dough. They're not exactly feeling great about their life. They have a lot of stress. They have a lot of financial problems, and it's super easy to tell people what they want to hear because it works in the short term, right? But I would just tell you, if you are a person with a back tax problem, you need to just use your intelligence in these kind of situations. Like you said, Todd, how can someone who has no idea about your business other than a 10-minute conversation tell you that it's all going to get written off. And even just more broadly, if the whole point of the IRS, like why does the IRS even exist? It's to fairly and equitably collect taxes. So why would it just be so easy to not pay your taxes? That just doesn't even add up. That's like saying 1 + 1 is 100. Like if you just think logically, the government is not going to reward you for not complying. But if you change your thinking to, hey, I'm someone who needs help, I'm ready to atone for the mistakes that I made, and I'm ready to take this seriously, but I need some help because I can't just write you a $300,000 check. What do I do? That is the kind of person that we can help and gets really great results working with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree.